Hello, everybody, and welcome to Greet the Week. This is Jan Moray, and I'm here with my co-host, Mona Duncan, on this beautiful day where I'd rather be outside than inside today, but have to keep my commitments. And today, Mona's got an interesting topic for us called a case of the overs. So, Mona, do you have a case of the overs?
Well, occasionally, yes. And as a matter of fact, I was kind of equating with some thoughts on how to overcome the overs, overcommitted, overscheduled, overeating, over anything that we come up with. And in the process of being so, overzealous or whatever, we become overbearing. And
Right.
so I want to look at it.
Flustered.
Yeah. I want to look at it as overcoming and being able to acknowledge these things and overcome them. And to me, overcoming is so energizing, whereas trying to be perfect and all that kind of stuff is just, it's stressing.
Draining, exhausting.
It's straining. So it's looking at, and so I have 10 little points here just to kind of talk about and consider. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So if you have more tools on your tool belt than one or two, you can always go to another one. And sometimes one will work better in one situation, whereas maybe you need a saw in another one, whereas a screwdriver would work with one.
Yeah. Well, I think that's so important for people to take into consideration because there is no one solution. You do need to have a lot of tools in your tool bag. And maybe in some situation, one thing will work, but another time it just won't. And so instead of saying, well, it doesn't work, you say, well, let's try something else. Let's keep going.
Right. And one of those, although it's definitely a tool, is that to realize that it's all about choices.
Yeah.
That what I'm doing, even if I'm stressing, even if I'm whatever, what I'm doing is that I am making a choice. And to recognize them, be aware of them, use those choices. I do have choice to stress over this, or I have choice to, and I do have the choice of going in such depth of doing something, or I have the choice of maybe looking at it from a more casual point of view. And too many choices can also be stressful.
Right. Yeah. Because you don't know which direction to go.
Right. Especially, if you're looking at, well, what cereal should we buy? I mean, this advertisement and that advertisement and another advertisement. And they all have some good, I'm assuming, a little bit of nutrition there. But, too many choices can be too stressful, and it causes you to second guess yourself. So it's just realizing and stopping that this is the situation, that it is what it is. Mm-hmm. So what, now what? So what am I going to do about it, and how am I going to do it, and what choices am I going to use in that? And then also another point to consider, whether it's working with yourself or with someone else, is to be gentle on you, but harsh on your behavior.
Okay, right.
A lot of times we will be, well, I couldn't help it, but we'll be harsh on us. I'm so stupid. I should have all this. But be gentle on you. Maybe I do have those capabilities, and I can do them whenever I calm down a little bit, or whenever I am not so overdoing so many things. And so being gentle on you, that whether it is directed directly toward you or a mate or a parent or a coworker or whatever, it's realizing that every person has infinite worth and value, and we learn more when we are not in error mode, that what we have done or what they have done is wrong, or it's off schedule. We learn more whenever we're in a more relaxed atmosphere. So it's looking at the thoughts towards something, and then trying to back up a little bit and give a little bit of space to re-see it and rethink it. It's also in realizing that everything we do has a trade-off.
Yes. Yeah. It would be nice if it was so clear cut that there were only advantages to any decision, but just that every decision has some things to consider to go with it.
It does. So we need to get real. We need to get honest with ourselves. Is what I am pursuing, is it worth what I'm giving up? And what am I giving up in order to pursue this? And if not, what choices can I do about it? How can I get things in a better perspective where I can say yes to some and no to some things, because everything is an exchange system. And to continually assess and reassess and reevaluate what really is important. Is it something that I want to do? Is it something that's really important to do? But be open to realize that everything we're doing or not doing, we're trading off something for it.
Because we can always be doing something else.
And maybe even challenge some of the excuses that we brought up, or some of the denial things that we're in there to see, am I really being truthful to me?
Right. And I think that's a real important thing to start thinking about. Start taking notice of the excuses that you make. And we write an email or something to each other, or even just talking to somebody, we always seem to make excuses for why we can't go somewhere, we can't do something, but really we don't want to. and we keep coming up with a reason. It's like, well, what's wrong with saying, I really just don't feel like doing that today?
Right. There's an issue that my husband and I need to settle with another organization. And so he called them. And now what has to be done is some follow-up written work,
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking here while I was sitting on the corner of my desk, and I was just thinking, I really want to blame Garland for this.
Yeah.
I really want to say, now he could get in here and write this. Right. Or he could. But it's, in the long run, he's done his part so far. He's opened the door for it. And now I need to do the follow-up of my part. But it's realizing that, and that we're trading off, and how do we speak it in? We do speak things into existence. And do we speak them into existence in a kind and gentle way, or in a disconnecting way?
Yeah. Well, I have an example from yesterday. Normally on Sundays, I invite my son and his fiancée to come over for dinner, and I fix dinner. But my husband went on a ski trip, a business ski trip this weekend. And so I was alone at the house, and I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. And yesterday was such a gorgeous day, and I just wanted to spend time outside in the yard. Absolutely. And so I said, I'd rather be outside working in the yard than fixing dinner. So I texted them and I said, I'm not going to invite you for dinner tonight, because I'm choosing to go out and work in the sunshine than to cook dinner. And I just told them, and they were good with it.
Sure.
And we think that, oh no, what's wrong? Mom is not fixing us dinner tonight. What's wrong with that? Well, I do have the right to say, I'm just not going to cook today.
Exactly. And in healthy relationships, you can do that.
Right.
And although there may have been a little bit, oh no, I like going over to Mom's and having her cook for me, that was probably there too, but it wasn't a disconnect. Yeah. It was an understand.
Yeah. And first, I started to make up excuses for why I wasn't going to do dinner. So, well, my husband's coming home too late. I'm not going to be able to do it. I was like, no. The real if I could make it work, the real reason is I want to spend time outside.
Right. Sometimes we want to place blame, but it's being honest enough with ourselves and adult enough to realize that everything we do is connected to other people and other things, and that the more we can flow with our responsibilities, the better life works overall.
Yeah.
So it's also looking at the fact that whatever we may have made these commitments to, then it's such and such a burden on us or whatever, that this too shall pass. That sometimes if we can just muddle through and maybe, realize what choices that we are making or not making, that whether it's good or whether it's not so good, don't get stuck in it.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck. Embrace the moment, love it, learn from it, and gracefully move on. Realizing that this is whether you did it or didn't do it or whatever. Another thing is to determine and be aware of the fact that most things are neutral.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Truth is neutral. We may not like it, or we may embrace it, but truth in and of itself is neutral. And same thing, really, I guess we could almost say that information is neutral. What information we're receiving, whether we like it or dislike it, it's
Right.
neutral.
Right.
Time is neutral. Whether we use our time effectively or whether we use it ineffectively, whether we use it to actually get things done or to just sort, pack into piles of files or something like that, whether we use it effectively or ineffectively. Money in and of itself is neutral, whether we put a big harm on our budget or whether we kind of, back off and look at things a little bit more reasonably, is looking at what is neutral. It's neutral. And sometimes whenever we're asked to do something, instead of saying, oh, well, I have to do that because I'm good at it. Well, you might be good at it, but you know what? You may not have enough time, enough energy, enough this, enough that. And so it was a request, yes, but it's not a demand.
Right. You can always say no.
You can. You really can. And in saying no, say it graciously. Thanks for considering me, but the answer is no.
Yeah.
And whether that's even saying no to a salesperson,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
or saying no to yourself. I create a lot of habits and I do things and I end up just doing them because I've always done them. And then you get to the point where you're so busy and I don't really have time to do this. Why am I doing this anyway? It was just something that I've always done. And so you have to stop and think, well, is this really important enough to me to continue doing this? Or shall I just say, no, I've moved past that and to stop doing those things that you used to always do. It doesn't mean that you're any worse for it. It's that it's not serving you at the moment. You have other things that are more important for you.
Exactly. I know one of the things with myself was whenever I quit making rosettes out of radishes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I mean, we'd had the whole family over or friends or whatever and make this big spread, and I wanted everything to always be so neat and pretty and, as well as good and all that.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to put the little bees on the little butter slices and rosettes out of radishes. And the day it dawned on me that, you know what? I can be just as good a host and they can enjoy everything just as much, and I won't be so stressed out when I just wash them and put them in a bowl.
Right. Yeah, I never had that problem. For me, it's like a presentation means nothing. I said, you get what you get. This is what it is. It's a good meal, whether it's all fancy with my rosetted radishes or if they're just plain in a bowl.
Right.
You have nothing fancy coming on my table. I have to laugh. One time, my son's fiance was over at one of our Sunday dinners, and I was fixing a salad, and I had all the fancy stuff that goes on the salad in a bowl, and then I just had some greens to go with it, and I had the greens and just the bag that I bought it through at the store, and we're passing the bag around. I just saw the look on her face was like, oh my God, you're actually just giving us the bag of spinach and we're supposed to pull our spinach off of there. It's like, well, that's me. I'm not going to put it in a fancy bowl just so that it looks like this, your family.
Right. And then too, kind of overcoming the overs is to really examine the ironies of life, such as, is fast food really fast? Yeah, and you stand in line, especially if you're driving through, wow, yeah, that's really fast, as opposed to going home and actually making something that may be a little bit more nutritious than the fast food. And, those ironies of life that those labor-saving devices that you have everywhere, are they really saving labor or are they just cluttering the cabinet space?
Right.
And having kind of not a one tool fits all, because we do need more tools. There's no doubt about that. But rather than having everything that has to specify for everything, can be, again, one of those overwhelming things. And realizing that quiet time is essential.
Yeah.
Just to breathe, to think through, to
Quiet time.
organize a little.
And quiet time, not plugged in, not where you've got your smartphone and you're listening to something on it. Quiet meaning everything off. And
Right.
time to reflect and do some deep thinking.
Yeah. And energy is everywhere, that sometimes you need that quiet energy for it to recharge.
Mm.
And for it to really give us maybe to calm down, or to actually rest a little bit, or to look at the fact that this is important, but I'm giving maybe too much importance to it.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm stressed because I'm not giving enough importance to it, and therefore I'm procrastinating. It's looking at that. And it's giving up the perfection of it. Do the best you can. Good enough is good enough, and then move on to something else.
Right. Right.
And kind of developing a support system. It's okay to have help.
It is. It's okay to ask for help. Absolutely.
To ask for information, to get help, and say, well, I can't afford help. Well, sometimes there's some really free help, like then, your mate, your children. Sometimes and you can build on that. You can build camaraderie and working together as a family.
Yeah.
We all have a job to do here because we're all part of the family. And then definitely in everything we do, have fun. That's
Right.
very, very important, just to have some fun with it, to develop a sense of sense of humor, to enjoy parenting, enjoy school, enjoy work, enjoy home, enjoy the ride home, enjoy everything. Just find something in it.
Right. Right.
And kind of goes back up to point number one, is that we're always making choices. So make the choice to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember, you're always anticipating some event and you can't wait for it to happen, or you can't wait for this phase to pass when your kids are little, but you're wishing your life away when you do that. And so instead of wishing that this thing would pass and hurry on, it's like, no, stop and enjoy what's going on right now. Find something. There's always something you can find that you can be appreciative for, and something positive, and just learn to look for that positive side of it, and you'll feel a lot better.
Right. Just like Robert Frost in his poem about the two roads diverged in the woods, and it stood there and tried to decide which one to go down. And he realized that, choose one and go, because I'll never come back to this point again.
Mm-hmm.
And so often, rather than making a choice that in the moment seems to be the most effective, and go with it, even if it turns out to not be the best in the world. We won't go back to that point again. We won't have that. So enjoy it and make a rational, sane decision.
Yeah.
And then put your heart into it, put your mind into it, put your soul into it.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, don't lament that you chose the wrong path or say that you did the wrong thing. Look to see, what was I supposed to learn by coming this way and doing this thing?
Exactly. Because everything is a part of the whole. And sometimes it's that little thing, it's the O-rings that back with the shuttle,
The Challenger.
O-ring. Yeah. It's the little things that matter. And rather than saying it was right or wrong, is what did we learn from that, and how did it expand our creativity, our energy, and how did it connect us together as a group, as a family, as a co-workers, so that we can win this thing together, because we need everyone and we need each other, all working and doing our part.
We certainly do.
Yeah. So it's being aware of, and I like what Coach John Wooten would always say, hurry but don't rush.
Right.
There's a big difference in that. Rushing is kind of that over,
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas hurrying is just not deliberately delaying, it's keeping on, and it's getting it done in a timely manner.
Yeah, I remember my son one time, he was fairly young. He might have been 10 or 12. He said, Mom, I realized that when you rush to do something, a lot of times it takes more time to do it than if you had just taken your time to do it in the first place. Because you do tend to make more mistakes and hurt yourself if you try to rush too much, because you're focusing so much on the end, you're not really paying attention to what you're doing.
Right. And sometimes we'll just jump into something and not have the right equipment or enough things on hand to do what we're wanting to do.
Or thought about it long enough.
Right.
To
Right.
decide this is really what I want to do.
Be a real source of frustration. So it's realizing that all of those things work together and do the best that we can. And sometimes, if you've done enough, well, it's time to just call it quits. It's time
Yeah.
to call it an okay. And to be personally empowered, we can tap into and maximize our personal talents, and rather than accepting the chairmanship of something or just accepting anything that is not yet within our scope. And it's not to say that we can't learn it and to grow into it, but don't bite off more than you can chew. Is that one of the sayings?
Yeah, yeah.
And when we realize that we have bitten off more than we can chew, it's okay to rethink.
Right. It's okay to say, hey, I didn't realize this was going to take this much time, or this was going to be this difficult. And it's okay to say, I need to step back a little bit, or can I get some more assistance? And not to feel like you have to do it all yourself.
Right. And whether you ask for information or whether others just volunteer information.
Yeah.
Realize it goes back to the fact that those choices are always within our purview, that we can either say yes to, we can not want to even hear their suggestion, or we could listen to it and think about it, and there maybe take one little ounce out of it as opposed to the whole thing. And it's realizing that that sometimes in doing things, it really does take a village.
Yeah.
And
or just somebody who can look at it from a little different perspective and help you to see it differently from the way you're looking at it. Because sometimes you get so caught up in the thing that you're doing and how overwhelmed you are that you can't really look at it logically. It's just making things worse. So to be able to step back and have somebody say, hey, but this is the stuff that you've done that's helping a lot, that you've really done well. Let's focus on those things, and then let's put a plan together to get this other stuff done.
Right. And stop worrying about it.
Right.
And the thing of it is not worrying doesn't mean you're not concerned. Doesn't mean you don't give any thought to it.
Right.
It's able to take those emotions out of some of the words that we use. I was talking with a lady yesterday that she just mentioned in just a short conversation. I took her home. She had needed a ride home, and so I took her home. And in just a short 2 or 3 mile, there was like 10 things that she was so worried about.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give all kinds of advice, but you know what? I just had this check in my spirit that she wasn't the least bit interested in hearing anything anyway. So whenever we got to the destination, I just reached over to her and held her hand, and I told her, I said, I'm just really concerned about you. I said, I'm not worried about you, but I am concerned. And I just hoped that was able to kind of, maybe filter into her that instead of I can be concerned without being so worried about so many issues.
Yeah.
But if there is a worry there, and matter of fact, I even asked one time, I said, would you like a suggestion? And
did she?
No. So I'm not going to plunge in or I'm learning to not plunge in quite so much.
Yeah, you don't need to take on somebody else's stuff. You
Right.
have enough of your own. You just
Right. Not even take it on, but not even to plunge in to try to give such sage advice, because that could be more off-putting than anything.
yeah.
Sometimes
But
whenever we can just
but
be there as a support.
but that's hard to do with your kids. You know, when your kids are upset about something and come and talk to you about it, you feel like they're a part of you. And so it become what they're concerned about becomes something that you're concerned about. But after your children get to be adults, it's like they're going to have to learn to figure it out, and I'm going to have to learn to back off and
Right.
stay out of that, because it's not
Right.
it's not my deal anymore. I feel bad. I feel concerned but it's not my problem to solve.
Right. 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 And I do that with my daughter. Back whenever she was about 16, I think it was, and I was, I made the comment. I said, "Okay," I said, "now who is it you need me to be? Do you need me to be mom? Do you need me to be a counselor? Do you need me to just be a friend that just listens? Because I'm willing to be all three. I'm willing. I mean, I think I can step into maybe all three of those roles, but at the same time, what are you needing from me now?"
Right.
And
Right.
so that's kind of like sometimes with our mate. I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to hear it.
Right.
Don't try to fix things for me. Just empathize with the fact that I'm frustrated.
Right. I'm just venting right now. I need to get this stuff out. You happen to be right here, and I know you care, but I don't need you to do anything about it. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. And sometimes if I speak it out, then I can hear it back, and
Yeah.
I'm either speaking it, oh, it's not as heavy as I'm saying it is, or
Right.
I can get
There's something real magical about putting your thoughts into words.
It
You get
is.
to look at it from a little different perspective, because when it's all in your head, you just stay stuck in it. But if you can express it, write it, say it, and get it out there, you end up looking at it from a little different perspective.
Well, we're speaking it into existence. I mean, it's already happening from our point of view, and we're
Right.
speaking it into existence. And when we hear us say it, all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe it's not.
It doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah,
It doesn't sound so serious. Hey, why am I so concerned about that?
maybe it is doable. Maybe it is doable. Maybe it is. Maybe this too shall pass. Maybe I don't have to do anything about it.
Or sometimes even just doing one or two little things to help you to feel like it's not such a big deal as you had imagined. Because you've got all this big to-do list of things that you should be doing and you haven't done. And it's like, oh my goodness, I've got so much to do and not enough time to do it. But if we can just start knocking a couple of them off, it's like, well, these really don't take that long. If once I get to start working on them, they're really not that bad. And so it feels better.
You need to put action to your thoughts.
Put action, well, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we need just to look at it and see this is what does need to be done, but if it needs to be done, that's some kind of an action to it.
Right.
And so start small and do a little bit, and what is it? Inch by inch, it's a cinch.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of break it down, break it down.
Just start with one thing. What's the next thing you need to do? Well, let's just do that. Let's just worry about that. Let's just do that.
Yeah. And how does it all connect so that this is what the end project is?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I hope that these thoughts have been beneficial, and we appreciate James being with us, and those of you that are watching after this, well, we appreciate you. And anytime you want to give us some comments, well, we always appreciate hearing from you, or suggestions of something we can talk about at any time.
All right. Well, thanks, Mona. Thanks, Mona, for the topic for today, and we'll see everybody next week on Greet the Week.
Okay. So long. Have a good one.